The Joker, the 2019 superhero film starring Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker and directed by Todd Phillips. There is a lots of hype for this movie. Lots of people are excited about it. They want to see the Joker's origin. And this movie is not your standard superhero fare. It is more a dramatic indie art house kind of take on the superhero movie. So there's no real superhero movies that are like this using the sort of A-list characters. So it's very sort of interesting and very sort of different. And you definitely have to give this movie kudos for deciding to tackle a superhero character this way. So there's lots of buzz for this film. It opened at the Venice Film Festival, where it won the Golden Lion. So it won that film festival. Right now, it's airing at the Toronto International Film Festival, which is where I went to see it. And it was so hyped there that it sold out. And I really wanted to get tickets, so I paid above face value to get to see this movie. So I did see it. And, in many ways, it was worth it because I wanted to see this one early. Now, this is an interesting movie for Todd Phillips to be doing because he normally does these kind of stupid comedies. So he's done Road Trip, Old School, Starsky and Hutch, the Hangover trilogy of movies. So to do a dark or gritty origin movie for the Joker is definitely a real departure for him. But he's the one that sort of had the vision for it, and he's the one that pitched it. So he does deserve a lot of credit. Although I will say this movie is heavily inspired by Martin Scorsese's 1970s, 1980s movies. So think Raging Bull, Taxi Driver, King of Comedy. Robert De Niro's even in this film. And it almost at times feels like he's sort of plagiarizing Martin Scorsese in some ways in this film. Now, one thing I thought about this movie is how sort of faithful is it to the Joker's sort of story. Now, the Joker doesn't have a defined origin. In fact, one famous quote from the Joker is that if I have to have a past, I prefer it to be multiple choice. So even if you're not 100% on board with the origin in this movie, you can always think that maybe the Joker is just lying because he's an unreliable narrator. Maybe this isn't the actual full story. But for the most part, it kind of works. It kind of works as a Joker's origin, and it is in many ways kind of believable. So Joaquin Phoenix is fantastic as the Joker. He escalates the material from an okay movie to making it a fantastic movie. He really does carry the film. He's on screen most of the time. And he just nails so many parts of the Joker. He nails that maniacal laugh that the Joker has. He does his own sort of interesting spin on it. Supposedly, he studied videos of people with something called pathological laughter. And he, watched that and he sort of generated his own laugh for the Joker. And it's very good, very creepy. Apparently, Joaquin Phoenix also lost 52 pounds and he got really skinny. And he looks very sort of skeletal in the movie and very kind of creepy. And he really does a good job in this. And you see his sort of deterioration throughout the movie, which is very fascinating. Now, one thing really interesting about the way they portrayed the Joker in this origin movie is that you have this guy, Arthur Fleck, who is Joaquin Phoenix, and he's just kind of like a normal guy. Well, he has some mental problems, but he's relatively a normal guy, and he's a clown, and he wants to be a comedian, but he suffers from this mental illness. And in many ways, he comes off as a very believable, sort of realistic human person. And he has his mental illness, and you just see him deteriorate throughout the movie, and society sort of not treating him well, society sort of failing him, and he can't get the mental health he needs. The government shuts down like the psychiatrist he used to see to get his pills, and things just get worse and worse. And you feel for him, and you root for the Joker in this movie. You want him to succeed. You want him to be happy. And it's very interesting that you can make the Joker sympathetic. Now, while you root for him, eventually you get to a point where you can't root for him anymore because he's crossed the line. He's gone too far. He's killing people or whatever. He's doing stuff that you just can't excuse. And it's sort of interesting that the movie can sort of take you on that ride. The other kind of big actor we have in this movie is Robert De Niro, and he's playing this guy named Murray Franklin, who is a Johnny Carson type talk show host in Gotham City, and he has a TV show. And the Joker growing up was like a fan of this TV show, and always wanted to be on the show. And Robert De Niro looked like he was having a lot of fun playing the role, so he was really great in it. Now, one thing about this movie is that it is in many ways a slow burn. It's not like a standard superhero movie where it's going to be wall-to-wall excitement all the time. There's a lot of sort of slow moments and just sort of getting to know the Joker character and getting to know his life. But when we get to the climax of the movie, where the Joker ends up going on this Murray Franklin TV show, shit just gets really exciting and really entertaining. And the climax of the movie is definitely great. The haunting musical score was really good, as were the other just sort of musical songs that they put throughout the movie. That was really fun. The overall look and feel of Gotham City, this really dark, gritty place, sort of like a really sort of messy New York. Think New York in the 70s before they cleaned up Times Square. So really kind of, dirty and grimy. That's what this movie kind of felt like. And it was a good sort of tone for the film. Good kind of look. This movie is R-rated, so it does get very violent at times and is very sort of horrific and creepy throughout. On to sort of the cons of this movie. One is that it is heavily inspired by those 1970s and 80s Martin Scorsese movies, so Raging Bull, Taxi Driver, King of Comedy. But it kind of feels like Todd Phillips is sort of plagiarizing those films and inserting the Joker sort of origin story in there, rather than doing something fully original. So that's one criticism I did have. Another thing I felt is that the movie has this sort of side plot theme of the 99% versus the 1%, and the sort of financial inequality that people have, and how the government is sort of failing people. And some of that was interesting, but I don't think it was as nuanced as Todd Phillips thought it was. Because eventually, as the movie goes on, it just goes into complete anarchy, and then everybody's wearing clown masks, and they're just running around the city all crazy. And I just wasn't fully buying into that sort of direction of the movie. One other criticism is sort of the interpretation of the Joker. Normally, I feel like the Joker is a person that sort of like embraces chaos. He wants the world to be chaotic. Where in this movie, it felt like the Joker was just this sad guy that wanted a hug, and he didn't get a hug, so he decided to start killing people. And I don't know if I fully think that is sort of the best take on the Joker. So in conclusion, I love the serious direction of this movie, and I would love to see more superhero movies take this sort of indie art house approach, this quiet approach, this more introspective approach. And I think Todd Phillips deserves credit for spearheading that and sort of doing this movie. I think Joaquin Phoenix perhaps deserves some potential actor nomination awards for this, and because he was really great in it. I don't think the overall script or like the overall movie deserves maybe a Best Picture nomination or anything. I don't think that, but there definitely is bits and pieces of this movie that are fantastic, and I highly recommend everybody go watch it. Will it be your favorite superhero movie ever? I don't know. I think some people are going to say yes, some people are going to say no, but either way, it's definitely something interesting to see, and it's definitely something a little bit different, and it's going to get people talking, so this is definitely worth checking out. I'm going to give this movie an 8.5 out of 10.